And if they expect me to walk away from Luton with nothing, I'll make very sure there's nothing to walk away from.
Hello and welcome back to the Oak Road Hatter podcast. I'm Billy Mully, joined today by Jamie Castle and Kieran Robertson following yesterday's 7-goal thriller at Kenilworth Road. 4-3 Arsenal, Declan Rice grabbing the winner right at the death. Very disappointing in terms of how it played out, but I guess an immense sense of pride for level of performance and how well we competed. It doesn't get any easier because, as well as talking about the Arsenal result, we look ahead to the next game, and that's Man City at home. Very, very interesting fixture to talk about, especially just after playing Arsenal. It doesn't get any easier in this Premier League campaign. Jamie, first of all, how are you getting on, mate?
Yeah, not bad. It's hard in these moments to feel positive, right? Obviously, there's always going to be that feeling of what could have been, and I did see someone say football is crazy how you go into a game, not expecting much and just wanting to enjoy it, and then walking away feeling sick to the stomach. Like it's crazy. Obviously, overriding feeling in the medium to long term of pride and just love for the club and the boys that left it all out there. But yeah, in this current moment, just still feeling a bit down.
Kieran, I guess it's a similar kind of feeling from your end today.
Oh, mate, it's I got home at 2 a.m. yesterday. It took me 3.5 hours to get home from Luton when it normally takes me 1 hour and 40. So you can imagine how great me and Mickey felt in that car on the way home, knowing that it was taking double the time that it should have. I left yesterday just sort of like not knowing what to feel. Like, I've seen it before. Like, I think I said on the way out, said to you, Bill, about how the last time I felt like this or similar, as you look at, obviously, we had the Liverpool game where we nearly had a win, but we still got a point. So there was that little bit of, yeah, we got a point though, like kind of helped a little bit. But then I think back to like when we went 3-0 up at Swansea and drew 3-3, that stank at the time because we were playing so well and we just let it slip. And I don't think this was one of let it slip. There's been a lot of discourse over Twitter and stuff, and we're going to obviously touch on all these sorts of things of, oh, but it was past the 6 minutes added on. Oh, but this player was diving and this. Everyone's got all these reasons as to why it's unfair that they scored their goal. But you know what? It's shit now, but it is what it is. And it's one of those painful moments. And I felt sorry for the little lad that had to sit next to me yesterday, because he obviously was loving life when he's thrown on my shoulders at 3-2 and Barkley scored and everyone's going mental, to then that heartbreak of 4-3. And I looked at him and I was like, "Are you okay?" And he just kind of went, "Yeah, it'll be all right." And I was like, "Oh, that's your first proper Luton Town heartbreak." I remember my days. I remember when I was your size, mate. You got plenty of those to come, but hey, let's deep dive. Let's get into it.
Yes, let's get straight into it with a bit of Too Good, Too Bad. We start, as always, as it seems at the moment, with good old Stephen Castle. Too good, Eli getting a start, and Ross Barkley, utter class. Bad, Arsenal first goal came from absolutely nothing, complete giveaway, and the second bad element, our own time wasting in the last minute, may have cost us. We go on to JP Walker, whose too good was scoring 3 against league leaders, and his second was brave, bold performance at home. Going on to the too bad, naive, rash defending, conceding injury time goals is agonising. Of course, not the first time we suffered that fate. Going on to Tommy, that Barkley goal, chef's kiss, the heart and performance from us, and the two bad elements. We are still leaky at the back. Not anyone's fault. It's just a problem that needs solving. And the second part, we need more discipline when it comes to the last seconds of the game. Of course, those last two were quite similar, so we'll go with that, Jamie. Still leaky at the back. That's 7 goals now conceded in the last 3 halves of football, if you include the Brentford game as well. All 3 goals were in the second half. It's weird because I think yesterday, looking back at the individual performances of the 3 defenders, I was impressed with Osho. I was impressed with Mengi again. Of course, there's a couple of moments, couple of shaky moments, but overall, 2 very good performances. And I thought Bell largely did okay as well. So it's weird that we're talking about 7 goals conceded in 135 minutes of football, but not pinning too much blame on mistakes.
Yeah, you say it's a strange one. I think Rob alluded to it in his post match, right, where it feels a bit weird after conceding 4 goals, but talking about Thomas Kaminski, who's been unreal for us this season, having a fairly quiet night. In that first half, in particular, if you break it down, their first goal, I called it a circus act to you boys last night, and that's what it was. Last night is hard enough, but you can't be conceding those goals against teams like Arsenal who are fighting for the title. The second goal, more kudos to Arsenal than I guess bashing us, but still, yeah. I mean, from an Arsenal perspective, they're saying it's a great goal. From us, it's saying, well, we can prevent various things, but let's be fairly level-headed. I think, yeah, those sort of goals you don't mind conceding against teams like Arsenal because you know what they can do. But outside of those 2 goals, I'm fairly safe in thinking that I didn't think they had any other real chances. So yeah, on the face of it, if you look across the 90 minutes, leaky at their back, yes, because obviously we scored 4 goals. That's a fact, right? You can't get beyond. You can't look past the facts that we still let in 4 goals last night. But beyond that, I think structurally, tactically, shape wise, I thought we were very, very good. And it's just weird that it's just the margins that are letting us down. It's in those moments, and that's what makes it even more frustrating. Like if we were being pulled apart by world class Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, and like that they were camped in our half, then you'd think, well, they're just a better side. We're clearly far off them, as you'd expect, given the sort of the gap in both financial might and experience at this level. But we're not, and it's just the margins. And I think that's what makes it hurt even more, is because we're not being battered or pulled apart. I mean, Brentford, I think, was just a bit of an off day. Clearly, we have to be much better than we were against Brentford if we're going to stay up. But then, if you look at the games against the top 6 teams like your Arsenals and Liverpool's, we're very much in games and not really being pulled apart too much. So yeah, I don't think there's too much you can do tactically, right? I think you just have to keep grinding out the performances and just get your heads up and just sort of keep grinding through the games. But you just need to pay more attention. You need to wake up a bit more in those margins, because the throw-in for start, right? It's not good enough. You can't concede those goals. It's a sort of goal you'd expect a League One or League Two team to concede away at a Premier League team in the Cup, and you just can't do that when it's a Premier League fixture. So hopefully you learn from that and don't make mistakes like that again, because at 0-0 we were very comfortable, and if there was one team that would go in ahead, it was going to be us based on performance, in my opinion. So yeah, against, as you say, City on Sunday, you can't be doing that, because you know how good Haaland, Foden, Grealish, Doku, you can't be doing that against those.
We'll go through one more too good, too bad, because I think by the basis of the first three and looking through the rest of them, they are all very, very similar. We'll go to Ads, who put as his first good thing, no injuries, which we've been waiting to say for quite some time. Plus, when you add in that there are several players getting back to full fitness, that can only be a good thing. And his second positive element was that if you play like that at home against smaller clubs, and we shouldn't have a problem picking up points. I guess that our performances in our last three home games, it was Liverpool, I think it's Liverpool, Palace, and then of course last night, it's created a new kind of standard for us, and I guess that can only be a positive as well. In terms of his two bad elements, he said defense needs to stop switching off. Again, it was a couple of, as Jamie alluded to, negative moments. A couple of, as puts it, switching off. It wasn't anything more than that. And then sloppy goals conceded again. And he put at the end, I know I've had 2 good points, but I want to add Ross Barkley is phenomenal. Something that goes without saying now, because the consistency of his brilliant performances has continued, Kieran. We obviously, when we got him at the start of the season, there was a thought of how good he can be, but in total honesty, he surpassed what I think he could have possibly done already.
He's one of those when you've got old boys sitting around you saying that he's one of the best players that they've seen at the Kenny, you know you've unearthed an absolute gem of a player. And he's a workhorse, which is surprising, because obviously the reputation that sort of preceded him before coming to Luton was very much technical. He's quality, he's got a talent. Work ethic wasn't one of the things that got mentioned. If anything, it was one of the things that was like, actually, that's where he suffers. But I've not seen this lazy Ross Barkley that people have mentioned. I've not seen it one bit ever since he started. He had the game against West Ham where he was sort of bit part, but that was his first proper minutes for Luton. Ever since then, he puts in 90 minutes and he puts in a shift. He was by far the best player on the pitch last night. Take Saka off, screw Ødegaard and Rice. The best midfielder on the pitch last night was Ross Barkley. And that says a lot. The fact that you had those world-class talents on the pitch and their performances were overshadowed probably by a bit of diving. But because Ross Barkley was just that level above them is incredible. And that's the sort of player we've got. I was sort of, one of the conversations I've been having today is very much like, I would love to see Ross Barkley in a 3-man midfield. If you bring in Lokonga and Nakamba and let Barkley have the freedom of Luton, Christ, can you imagine the sorts of things that he'd be able to do, rather than having to run back and drop deep to collect the ball and then sprint back up the pitch and then sprint back? Give him the chance to just be that creative midfielder, be that box-to-box midfielder if he needs to, but he's not doing as much of the dirty work because he's got 2 men behind him that are more than capable of doing that. But more so, they're 2 players that can provide a killer pass to him, to put him in a further position to then get more men progressing up the pitch. Like, as good as Ross Barkley is right now, I firmly believe there's actually another level to him, and we're going to see it over the next, 5-6 months.
An exciting prospect indeed. Jamie, let's talk Elijah Adebayo. It's a drum you've been banging for a while. You wanted to see him start. He eventually did, and he put in a decent performance. He obviously got his goal. He worked incredibly hard. The ball stuck with him as well. It was a very good display from a player that's, well, I say found minutes hard to come by, found starts hard to come by this season.
Yeah, very pleased with him. For feeling a bit vindicated in what I've been asking for. And I don't want to start to bash Morris. I think he's been excellent for us, and it is hard to jump up a league, especially to the Premier League. So he needs time, but he also needs to know that his position isn't guaranteed. And you've got an Elijah Adebayo who in his substitute appearances that he's come on in recent weeks. I thought he's been excellent. And I was saying at Brentford to the guys around me, like I don't mind in our status where we are at the minute as a club fighting to stay in the league. I don't mind a lack of quality or that finishing touch or just general being out muscled by a defender, because you Gabriel and Saliba and your Virgil van Dijk and their world class centre halves. Like I can allow that, but for me, one of the concerns with Morris was getting to a point where it seemed a bit of lack of effort or lack of will to want to press the centre half. Now, for me last night, that was polar opposite with Eli. And yes, okay, there's a caveat where it's time and a place. You can't be doing that for 90 minutes. And I fully appreciate that. But it's all about running the channels. There was times the ball was put over the top and Eli was running the channels and putting Gabriel under pressure. And I wasn't seeing that for Morris. And it's not just you're pressing and you're trying to get in the way of like a passing channel, but it's stick your arm on him. Just try and sort of lightly elbow him in the shoulder, just to know you're there, and just get in the heads. And he that's all I want from a number 9 in this system. I think the voices that were calling for a tactical change to provide Morris more support, appreciating the stat that Morris has won or competed or whatever the stat is in terms of aerial duels, and he is good at that, but he may be winning the first contact, but it wasn't sticking. Whereas with Eli last night, it was starting to stick. He was winning some fouls. So yeah, I think Eli deserves to keep his place against City on Sunday. It's just all about that want to lead the line, and even though Morris was struggling, you can't just change the tactical setup of the team for one player. I mean, the first port of call was always to try and change personnel, give Eli a go in that position, even give someone like a Jacob Brown a go in that position to see how they do. And if the same issues are reoccurring, then maybe it is an issue tactically. Now, small sample size, and I'm one that I really like seeing a bigger sample size. So Eli needs to show it over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 games. But so far, so good. And I think if he continues to put in the performance like he did last night, but as we say, a smaller club like a Palace who we beat, you got Brighton coming to us in January, obviously noting that we got 3 really difficult home games coming up. But even against the Thiago Silva at the Kenny and at end of this month, against Jamal Lascelles, if Botman's not back, like you can put these centre halves under pressure, and for me, that's what Eli does. So I see no reason why Morris gets back in until Eli starts to drop his performance levels. And that's a really positive thing, right? Where we now know that number 9 position, it isn't nailed on for one person. Eli will know that Carlton Morris is breathing down his neck, so he has to put in the performance. So that is a big positive for me last night, and I really hope he puts in the same level of performance on Sunday against the best team in Europe. I think it's hard to argue with that. Take your pick of centre halves: Vardio, Diaz, Ake, Stones, Akanji, like 5 world class centre halves that would get into 95% of teams in this league. So yeah, I think it's a tough game Sunday, but if Eli keeps it up and does what he did last night, I've got no concerns that he'll put those centre halves under pressure either.
Kieran, that was probably the biggest talking point in terms of team selection yesterday. There were also, like any other game week, there are always talking points when it comes to the lineup. Ogbene missing was I guess, key. Ogbene missing from the 11 was quite a bold decision, but I think I said to you at the time, it looked like the 3 most aggressive pressers starting up front for us. Did you see it that way? Did you think with Brown, with Eli, and with Townsend, we've got 3 players that were going to relentlessly press them and I guess signal what we were going to try and do?
It was one of those, like me and you obviously spoke before and during the game as well, just about sort of Ogbene's presence in the game. And I think him not starting kind of indicated he wasn't 100% fit, which is fine. But then him being on the bench was a clear indication that he is going to get minutes and he is going to get on. I was surprised that Townsend started over him. Like Brown, Ogbene and Eli as a front 3 I really wanted to see. However, Townsend had a quality game last night, and I think there was a lot of discourse. I'm going to completely change the subject because I want to actually praise Andros Townsend for one thing, and you either did see it or you didn't see it. And I think us that were there saw it on the TV, probably not so much. For the second goal, that corner, if you did see it, Townsend's on David Raya and he's just tugging his shoulder and he's tugging his shirt, just like this, little pinches, nothing. All season long, we have been complaining about other teams doing gamesmanship, diving, fainting fouls, pushing us, shoving, pulling shirts, everything. We've been bitching and moaning all the time. That is the one occasion I absolutely loved to fucking see it last night. Raya's there waiting for the corner, Townsend tugging his shirt. All you saw is Raya, bang, shoves him away. Just as the corner's getting taken, he gives him another little pinch. Doughty whips it in, goal. Rattled, big time. And the key thing is that I could make a song and dance about this and take the piss and be like, oh yeah, David Raya, funny, you're crap, because you were last night. But the key point is, we don't do enough of that. We don't do enough of this gamesmanship stuff. And we talked at the start of the season, when we brought Townsend in, we went Premier League experience. But with Premier League experience comes that sort of doggedness. That sort of, I'm just going to wind you up. I'm just going to frustrate you. I'm going to get in your head and you're going to lose it. And he did, because he made a mistake for the goal. You could say that's Townsend's fault. You could say that he's the reason that he lost his head. You might not look at it that way. The way I see it is just like I said about Mo Salah. You've got to frustrate those big players. When they come to the Kenny, it's a loud cauldron. That's already putting them off. Any little thing that you can do that you know other teams are getting away with doing to us. Like Erdegaard's dive in the last few minutes. He knew he was getting away with that. Gabriel Jesus holding his head. Oh, he's elbowed me. Gets up absolutely fine when he knows he's not getting it. Martinelli, I'm going to limp around for a little bit and pretend I'm hurt. Fuck off. Get off the pitch then. But it's those little things that if you're going to let these teams do it to us, give it back. Don't pussyfoot around other teams like, oh no, it's fine. Like, no, into them. Give it back to them. And Townsend showed it last night. So in that sense, that does answer your question of the best front three started last night. And I'm gutted that when we took the three off, the standards weren't the same. And like, I do have an issue with that. Like, Ogbene was the only positive change of those three. And it was gutting to see, because you had Townsend who was pressing. He got the assist to Barkley's goal because Townsend would be on the right pressing, but he'd also come inside and offer that third option. You had Brown, who was relentless, and every time he had the ball, we got Ben White on skates. Eli, like Jamie said, running through channels, winning aerial duels, chesting the ball down, and Brown's off. And then you had Morris come on. He barely pressed Gabriel, barely pressed Rice, barely pressed Saliba. Chong, reactive, not proactive. Ogbene, quality, and he was just unlucky in a couple of the chances he made. But obviously it's easier to say in hindsight, but only one of those changes worked yesterday.
Yeah, it's interesting going back to your point with the sort of the three players that came on. Obviously, it was at a difficult time. I think Arsenal had just got the third, and I think from then we knew what kind of game it was going to turn into. Naturally, I think we were going to push back, and as much as you try and combat it, as much as Edwards would have wanted us to get up the pitch and be as aggressive as we were, it just naturally became defence v attack, as particularly that last 15 minutes. I thought that's what made it quite difficult, particularly for Chong. But I do agree with Morris, and I think with his pressing, we know he's not as relentless as Elijah. He tries to be quite clever and narrow the angles into midfield rather than going through people. So I do get it. I do get why that can be frustrating, but I don't think it's a lack of effort with him. I've never thought that it's a lack of effort or lack of desire. It's more that he wants to stop the opposition from playing rather than dispossessing, and I think it's mindset rather than lack of effort. Again, that might be me looking into it a bit too much, but yeah, it was definitely a change in intensity levels, and I don't know whether that was just the way the game was playing out with Arsenal getting that third and subsequently wanting to go on and win that game, or I don't know if it was the subs that kind of enforced that. But we'll never know, that is for sure. We're going to head into a little break now. When we're back, we'll start previewing the next match at Kenilworth Road, Manchester City. We are back for part 2 of today's episode, and now we turn to the next fixture, Manchester City at home. Kenilworth Road is going to have to be loud again. It's going to have to be everything that it was on Tuesday night. Manchester City, probably widely now regarded as the best team in the world. Table perhaps doesn't suggest that at the moment, 6 points behind Arsenal, but we know with Manchester City, they always seem to make up ground and they come very, very strong for the second part of the season. Just looking at where they are now, Kieran, third, 30 points from 14, best goal difference. By Pep Guardiola's high standards, he won't be too impressed at the moment, but as I alluded to there, they are a team that have the ability to claw back at disadvantages. And I think, again, that's what most people expect in this season, for City to claw back at Arsenal.
Yeah, I think it's almost like they do it deliberately, isn't it? It's like, right, first third, we know we're going to cruise through. You'll probably win 2/3 of those games, blah, blah, blah. Give up a result here and there. But the trouble is, like, as anyone knows at this point, anyone that's watched Premier League football, even if you've only watched it 3 to 5 years, when City want to turn it on, that's it. That's all it takes. They just turn it on. Simple as that. They set the level. Like, they are the level you have to set out to achieve. There's a reason that Liverpool lost out to the title by a point, and they lost less games than City in that year. Because even losing 1 out of 38 games was not good enough to win the title that year. Arsenal last year, everyone thought they were an unbelievable side, and I think they're a better side this season than they are last season, which is why they've still maintained that top of the league position. They're still not the level. They're not the ones setting the standard for the league this year. Still, again, because City always have that next level. They're always one step ahead of everybody. So if they want to turn it on, they'll put in a good performance. If they don't, they won't. It's mental that the best team in the world, it's as black and white as that. If they want to play, they'll play. If they don't, they won't. That's all you can say.
And Jamie, like Arsenal, there's quality throughout that team. We could go every position of the first team squad, to the subs, to the reserves, to probably their their under 23s, and it is full of top level quality. We have to mention him because since he's come to England, he's taken the division by storm. Erling Haaland. You think of the defensive situation at the moment with the injuries we've got. It's going to be a very, very difficult afternoon, evening for whoever has to deal with him, because he's not just this hold-up player that is strong, powerful, will link up play. He can go in behind. He can pretty much do whatever he likes. So it's going to be down to us as fans and down to those centre-backs to make life as difficult as possible for him.
Yeah. Don't really know what else to say. Erling Haaland, right? I mean, last year he was a freak of nature. I don't know how many goals he scored. It was give or take around 40. He was just incredible, robot-esque. I guess if I was to look at a positive, he's not been quite at that level this season. He's missing a few chances. He's probably getting a bit more rattled than before. I think before he just literally head down, score a hat trick, get subbed off after half hour, and then job done. Whereas now he is missing chances. That there was the game against Liverpool where he should have bagged a few more, but he didn't. But that's just me trying to stay positive against who is probably an argument with Harry Kane, but one of the best number 9s in the world. Incredible, and feel sort of lucky to be able to see him at Kenilworth Road. That is if PGMOL don't decide to give him a nice little ban because of his antics the other day. But yeah, Erling Haaland at the Kenny. Hope Tom Lockyer is back to do the famous old pocketing that he's done with some other centre forwards before.
And then you look out wide on the left, a real selection dilemma for Pep Guardiola this season between Doku and Grealish. Both provide world-class talent. That doesn't really need to be said, but both are quite different players. Grealish, excellent ball manipulation, excellent combination play. He'll come in and he's more of a creator, whereas Doku, pace, power, tremendous skill as well, but a completely different kind of player to Grealish. Also in that attack, Phil Foden, who incredible left foot vision, unlike most in this division. Alvarez as well, that's turned into a real goal machine. Still very young and has won a lot already. There's a lot of an attacking talent, but also defensively speaking, they're as resolute as you can be. You mentioned the 5 centre backs, all of world class quality, all of which would probably get into the majority of Premier League teams. And then you even look at the fullback situation where on the left side you'll probably get one of those centre backs that we've mentioned. On the other side, Kyle Walker, who, yeah, if he's up against Ogbene, that would be some race to watch. One for the record books, I'm sure. But it's just we can go everywhere. We haven't even mentioned Rodri, who I don't know. I believe is probably the most influential player in that team. There's just talent everywhere, and it'd be quite easy for Rob Edwards to get lost in how to prevent them from playing, as opposed to how to get us playing, because there is threats coming from pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I think, as you say, Rodri's so influential. I think they've lost the last 3 games where he's not been playing. Play Villa tonight as we're recording this. So that'll be intriguing to see how that turns out. Unfortunately, getting a midweek rest, which isn't helping us, because he'll be back fully sort of rested and recovered for our game on Sunday. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. That I mean, yeah, I think you need to try and look past how good they are and try and look at their weaknesses. Tactically, they're a bit niche, right, with this sort of 3-2-4-1 where they're playing that, probably John Stones alongside Rodri in that defensive shield too. Walker as a right centre half, but can equally get forward. Yeah, you could write like papers on a Pep Guardiola set up and how he's transitioned his sides over the years. So it's fascinating. It's going to be really intriguing to see it in the flesh at Luton. Thankfully, I think Doku might be injured, so that's a positive. But then you've got Phil Foden, who still seems like he's not really playing week in, week out, but still hitting incredible heights. Jack Grealish, yeah, very good. Alvarez, Messi's best mate, World Cup winner, who, despite losing, equally world-class midfielder Kevin De Bruyne, they still somehow managed to convert who you would normally think is a number 9 into this sort of attacking midfielder role off Haaland, just behind him and Alvarez. So it's fascinating. It really is fascinating. And certainly, I think that there's no argument about it for me. Will be the best team that I have seen at Kenilworth Road in my Luton lifetime.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of arguments as to how good they are in terms of the past most successful teams. They certainly have to be up there. Probably more recency bias because of my age, but they are the best team I believe I've ever come across, ever seen. I guess you can't. It's difficult to compare to, say, Arsenal Invincibles when you're so young and you can't quite assess them as you would this City team. But I think by far the best team in Europe at the moment, displayed that last season in the Champions League. But yeah, I think what you mentioned there, I don't think they're quite at the levels that they displayed last season. That is by no means a slight at them, because they are still unbelievable in every department, but that's just how high standards we are talking here. Kieran, we mentioned our game plan. We mentioned Edwards, what he wants from this game and what he'll be telling his players as part of the message. Where do you think we could potentially expose City? Because like any game of football, it's not written. The chapter's not closed. We could potentially win this football match.
It's weird.
I'm looking forward to this answer. Bloody hell. Good luck, mate.
Right, answers are brilliant.
No comment.
How can we exploit Manchester City, Kieran? Go on, for 40 marks.
Right. You marked me out of 100 uni assignment, yeah, dissertation. Right, great.
Easy, yeah.
Anyway, so I'll be honest, it's probably going to be pretty similar to Arsenal. It's going to be set pieces. It's going to be through counter-attacking. And it sounds like obvious answers, right? But look at how good we were from set pieces against Arsenal. Like, any relegation fighting side needs to find a strength in there somewhere. And set pieces are a goldmine for any team at any point, because they can go either way. If you come up against a team like us, who clearly practice set pieces, otherwise we ain't scoring two out of 3 goals last night with a set piece, it's trouble. Even with the best players in the box trying to head those balls out, it's unpredictable. Not even Gabriel and Saliba marked Gabe Osho last night for that set piece. Eli, little nod, because he had a bit more height on him. You never know. Equally, Eli's pressing to me. You could see David Raya was a little bit uneasy. Now, you know you've got Ederson, he's a cocky little bastard in goal. He loves to just, give me the ball and I'll just do this, that, and the other. I'll clear it off the goal line and I love it, whatever. Eli and Ogbene applying pressure to a keeper like that. That's where I'm looking at as well. It's set pieces. I'm looking at pressure and encouraging him to make a rash decision when distributing the ball. Because whilst he's got world-class quality in doing it, don't give him all the time in the world to think of that option. Put him under pressure and go, no, I'm forcing you over there. But you haven't got a choice. You don't get to play it to Haaland. You have to play it over there now. And it's like, oh, okay, whoa. All of a sudden, that's where we can then capitalise if we have more players in that area, sweep the ball up and try and make something of it. It's probably obvious. We know we're not going to have that much of the ball come Sunday, but it's just about when we do have the ball, not rushing it, not being this team that gives away the ball needlessly. Like, there was so many spells of play yesterday where we were just keeping hold of the ball, and that is fine. Is not having to lump it up and try and make a chance. Just keeping hold of the ball and being comfortable with the ball and knowing that your chance is going to come at some point. Don't rush that chance. Make that chance. You saw how quick Arsenal shifted the ball. If we shifted with them across the pitch, immediately Ødegaard, bang, spins. All right, we'll go that way then. But there's a reason they do that. It's because they try and just exploit that space. But we can do the same. We have that quality in there to do the same, even to a Man City. We did it to Arsenal last night. You never know. As they say, never say never.
I think, Jamie, the interesting aspect of, well, it's all very, very interesting, but what I can't get my head around is that we are, I think, on Ladbrokes 18-1 to win this game, to win a home league game, 18-1, which has to be, happy to be proven wrong, but that has to be the highest odds we've ever been to win a home league game. Away from home, definitely you can see probably something that exceeds that, but 18-1 to win a home league game, to win at Kenilworth Road, that has to be the highest.
Yeah, and it's actually quite appealing, despite how much we praise Manchester City and how good they are, and it's all factually correct. If you look at the games we've had against the better sides this season, you've got, I mean, obviously you have to exclude the first few games with the Chelsea one, but since then, Spurs at home should have got a point. Liverpool at home, so unlucky to not get all 3. United away, I think unlucky for that not to be a 0-0 game despite a few mistakes and not really causing too much problems. And then last night, we were seconds away from getting a point against top of the league. And if you really delve deeper into the Arsenal game at 3-2, probably should have held on for a bit longer. And if that does stay 3-2 for longer, then who knows? You're not far off getting all 3 points. So when it comes to it, is it going to be, what's that, 4th, 5th time lucky? Is it going to be, we've now had all these games where we've made our mistakes, we've learned from them, and now we're going to put in the perfect performance. So yeah, Man City are unbelievable. Man City are the best team I have ever seen in my lifetime. Because I've seen them a few times when I was in Manchester for a work placement. I've seen them and they're very, very good, and they're even better now than what they were back then because they've got Erling Haaland. But they're not unbeatable. They are conceding goals. Appreciate it's against good teams, but letting 3 goals against Spurs. Spurs are a very good side, but like Manchester City teams haven't let in those amount of goals before in terms of what I can remember, not consistently. So they do have weaknesses. It's up to Rob and the team to try and exploit those weaknesses. And who knows? Could it be one for the history books? Could we beat Man City at home, and could that not kickstart our season, but I mean, or does it kickstart our season? Because fundamentally, performances have been very good, but 9 points from 15 is not good enough. So could that kickstart our season in terms of points? Who knows? It's unlikely, but at 18-1, it might be worth a few quid.
Well, that is it for today. Let's hope when we're talking afterwards, there's a few people that have picked up a bit of money after betting on the Hatters defeating Manchester City. Until next time, until after the Man City game and before the Bournemouth game, it is goodbye from us.